Hello, I welcome you to another Tuesday teaching. My name is Josephine, and my channel is Learn with Joes, an Academy of Knowledge Economy. I am your digital professor. If you are joining me for the first time, I want you to subscribe to this channel. I want you to like and share my page. On Tuesdays like this, I teach on core courses in philosophy of religion, theology, religion, and spiritual formation. On Fridays, I talk on germane, important issues that are beneficial to our lives. Just click on any of my videos and you will love it. I started some weeks back on metaphysics. And metaphysics, like I say, is a branch of philosophy of religion. And in the last 2 Tuesdays, I spoke on metaphysical issues. I started with what's been and the two world theories. Last Tuesday, I taught on space and time. And today is the series 3, continuation of the metaphysical issues in philosophy of religion. We are talking about purposive world. Purposive world. That's what I'm teaching on today. But before I start my real teaching, let's join Learn with Joes. I welcome you back. My name is Josephine, and this is Learn with Joes. I'm teaching today a continuation of metaphysical issues in philosophy of religion, and particularly on purposive world. I love it when you take your pen, you take your paper to jot down notes, and that's why I present PowerPoint presentation. It's like bullet point, like a teacher, so that for you to see exactly what I'm talking about and take note if you really desire. Even if you are not taking notes, you can follow me as I teach by looking at those PowerPoint presentations. So hold on whilst I present to you my PowerPoint presentation on purposive world. Purposive world, that's what the issue I'm talking on today. Is this a purposive world? I'm talking about the world we live now, that we know as our world. The question of purpose or teleology in the world needs careful examination and definition. No one will deny that there are small purposes worldwide. A student may declare, my purpose in life is to make money. This goal may be fulfilled anywhere from making $5 to 5 million. But is that student's life related to any better or more significant purpose in the cosmos? To come at the question another way, does purpose exist? Is purpose something anybody can make up without any relationship to a larger or cosmic purpose? When a man lives decently, morally, and justly all of his life, often against the milieu of society, does this have a meaning beyond his human achievement? Is the universe in any sense moral or purposeful? The question cannot be answered by observing moral only, and there appears to be nothing morally purposive anywhere except in the human community. If man's moral purposiveness is to be related anywhere, it must be found above him rather than below him. So what about it? Is there purpose? Teleology, a Greek word for goal or end, or design that penetrates the universe's core regardless of where you look. It's easy to conclude that the world does seem teleologically oriented. The cosmos, from the atom to the solar system, is a world of complexity that is orderly, precarious in balance, magnificent in a relationship, much of it scientifically explicable but excellent on any grounds. The real problem comes. So what? What will be concluded from the word design and harmony? That is where the argument begins. Note the following problems. 1. Concluding for a designer. From Aristotle to Aquinas to modern philosophers, thinkers have argued that the design and purpose in the world is the expression of a designer, which may be called God. An English philosopher, William Paley, popularized the argument in evidence of the existence and attributes of the deity. Paley used 2 examples, among others, to reach his conclusion: a watch and the eye. A watch and the eye. When an intelligent man picks up a watch, as he examines it, is led to conclude that its craftsmanship and intricacy resulted from a purpose. Paley argued that there could not be a design without a designer. Paley argued that there could not be a design without a designer. Everything about the watch leads to this conclusion. The same conclusion was reached in the second example, the eye. Paley knew nothing about the theory of evolution in his days, but he would probably have agreed with the argument used by Edgar Bratman, who wrote concerning the marvels of the eye. When one considers the fact that the eye is a complex organ, that each part of it is adjusted to the function of the whole, and that the parts are useless except in combination, it isn't easy to understand the result mechanistically. Suppose the developed eye is the outcome of gradual successful variations. In that case, there is no explanation of why the rudimentary variations will survive before all of the necessary variations are occurred in combination. Or if it is the outcome of a sudden mutation, there's no explanation for why all the necessary parts should appear simultaneously in mutual coordination. So on either horn of the dilemma, the similarity of structure and function in the 2 types of the eye is an effect without adequate cause, a mysterious miracle. There is no explanation unless it is granted that there is at work in nature a power that is non-mechanistic and that realizes ends. The conclusion is that some power or intelligence in the world realizes ends or goals. So moving beyond Paley and the modern illustrations of Paley's point of by Brightman, 2 other kinds of examples and arguments have been used to conclude that a designer exists. Humankind experiences purpose. Purpose, in this sense, deals with planning for and achieving goals in the future. Most of us are used to planning. Some plan with time. You have a calendar of months, days that you use in planning to achieve a goal or goals in future. The future is contemplated in the form of if this, then that, or if not this, then that. Explanation of these activities cannot be understood on chemical neural or physical basis in the body, for these parts of man's makeup are not forward-looking. Natural laws suggests purposive content in the cosmos. Light is an example. Light is uniform everywhere when you travel 186,000 miles a second. Light can be artificially slowed down. And after it passes through a slowed state, it picks up its original speed. Why is this? One might say merely that that's the way it is. But why light behaves this way might also point to rationality in the cosmos and design. Because it's been designed to travel at its own light speed. The idea of purpose is somewhat alien to the scientific community. Cause and effect have had a prominent place in science. Why the question of why or an ultimate cause has had little place? Why is there a world? Why is there life? These questions cannot be answered by just looking at only parts of the cosmos. And auto has many parts working in the mechanical relation. Each part works but makes little sense apart from the purpose of the machine, which transcends the parts. The purpose is beyond the parts working in harmony. The fact seems to be that once there was no life, then the world seemed prepared for life. Was it merely chance? Or were there loaded dice and a cheater somewhere rolling? It appears to make more sense that the world was prepared and shaped for life. So the modern ecologist seems to be saying, if we don't act intelligently, pursue the seeming design and harmony in nature, we will destroy ourselves. For Christians, the Bible, in the beginning, where we have the creation story, we realize that man was created last after God has created all other things. That means he had prepared life for the man. The world has been prepared, shaped for life before now man was created in his image and his likeness, having some attributes, communicable attributes of God, to be able to do things in the world that has been created. That is the Christian perspective. Purposiveness seems to relate to the fabric of human existence in another way. Viktor Frankl has done much with his use of logotherapy for people with problems. People who have mental crisis because they have no purpose. The will to purpose has become a fundamental difference between living and dying. While Franklin does not conclude that God is the cause of the purpose has more meaning if it is related to God. So serving humankind is purposive activity. But one may do this and conclude that life is a tale told by an idiot, without meaning, but serving humankind has a significant purpose in that it is related to the whole meaning of life as proposed by God. 2. Is the designer finite or infinite? The argument doesn't say, and all that is necessary is that the designer has sufficient powerful and intelligent to get the job done. The designer is sufficiently powerful, sufficiently intelligent to get the job done. But the presumption is that the designer is all-wise, infinite in power and goodness, and has done the work well. If the designer is infinite, specific objections are raised against this conclusion. Arguing by analogy, a finite world will not require an infinite God. Thus, one could only argue by analogy and cause and effect that since the world is finite, the designer need only be finite. However, If the world were infinite, then an infinite cause could be required. Thus, the question becomes one related to physics and astronomy, as well as the argument from cause and effect. 2. The problem of evil masks the perfection implied in the design. The implicit assumption is that this world is either perfect or all good, but there appears to be evil in the cosmos, which needs an explanation. The argument doesn't deal with the matter of evil. One might argue that the creator or designer is both good and evil or indifferent. It is also conceivable that some things called evil may be found to be good, but the argument doesn't provide for this problem too. David Hume raised various objections against the teleological argument, such as the analogy of bungling carpenter who does his work with a bit of trial and error. The objection to the lack of perfection in the world stands in contrast to the perfection of the designer. But if the designer is perfect, what has happened to the world? It leads to other questions. Was the world once perfect and then corrupted? It may be a possibility, but philosophically, we can now say that it is not a perfect world as we understand the world, yet many designs are manifested in it. One may seek a solution by an appeal to religious viewpoints, namely that the world has been corrupted by sin from a once perfect state. Still, philosophically, the argument by itself has some problems. If the option that the world reflects a finite designer is maintained, the fact still holds that there is a design, and we can argue over the degrees of design or the relative perfection of the designer, rather than the absence of design. The ideas of purposes may not be infinite, but yet be a significant fabric of cosmos. The finite designer conclusion tends to cast aspersions on the idea of God, but despite this, even if this conclusion were accepted, an enormous intelligence is expressed in the cosmos. Consider the enormous amount of knowledge that we know about the cosmos. Contemplate the future discoveries that man will make. A being who designed the world will have to be enormously precocious. It will not require too much of a leap of faith to conclude infinite intelligence, unmeasurable intelligence. It is especially true in light of the unknown knowledge of the future that shall be uncovered. Once upon a time, many years ago, there was nothing like a cell phone. We have big phones. But now, everybody carries cell phones around. If what we know reflects finite intelligence, the limit of our knowledge makes it possible to consider infinite intelligence. But even if we do it, we have to come up with an explanation for the thorny question of the presence of evil in the purposeful world. The case against teleology almost boils down to one argument: the existence of evil. There are other arguments against teleology, but they are insignificant in comparison to the problem of evil. For example, it is argued that teleology is a human projection of man's experience in the world rather than a valid conclusion drawn from the world. Admittedly, some people fantasize and live in a world all their own. But is this true for the common core of the people who are pretty realistic in their lifestyles and beliefs? To say that man generally projects would require a general psychological study of man, and no such study has been done. Moreover, if it were found faithful that men project their feelings on the world, this will require an adequate explanation. Is man's mind so framed that it sees purpose where none exists? That will raise the credibility of the rest of his knowledge. Does man generally acknowledge teleology because it's driven to the conclusion of the possibility of seeing teleology in the world? What is an adequate explanation of man's projection of purpose if it could be proven to be mere psychological projection? Another minor objection comes from Darwinism and its varieties. Instead of design and teleology, we now have Darwin's ideas of natural selection. Some organisms are better adapted to survive than others. This survival value is not due to any creator or designer. The wide acceptance of evolution is due in part to the rejection of non-tangible explanations such as designer or God. Darwinism alone does not abolish teleology. The problem of the origin of life arising from inorganic to organic has yet to be solved adequately. But explanations based on genetics and mutations may be seen as expressions of complex rationality. Adaptation may likewise be viewed from the standpoint of teleology and the struggle for existence, but in reality, we have come to substitute words for the same ideas. What we may say and what we can say and always we say, we may assume and we may say that nature has equipped Canadian geese to fly south with the coming of winter. Nature is a scientific substitute term for God. Can that be? Now, in theology, God even created nature. Nature sounds more scientific and less mystical, but nature does not explain. But nature as equipped says the same as God as escaped, but in reality is not as meaningful. For nature does not have intelligence, whereas God is full of intelligence, infinite intelligence. So God is supposed to have it and have it. The problem may be whether one believes in God or not. And that is the bottom line of all this argument. Do you believe in God or not? Because the argument you take towards on the scale, what your belief is, the existence of God or non-existence of God. Equating nature with God or knowing that God created nature. Thank you for joining me this Tuesday. Join me again next Tuesday for maybe the last of the metaphysical. No, I don't think it's the last, but also we will continue with metaphysical issues, the philosophy of religion. Don't forget to subscribe, click the subscribe button, and don't forget to, if you want to make comments, look at my description link box for my email, and you can make your comments there. Have a blessed week. Thank you.